All right, so let's go. What's up, collectors? This is Parlay Jay here with you today, and we are here on our very first podcast interview, and I am very, very excited to have my good friend Matt Schwartz from FCG here with me today. Matt, thank you for joining.
Jay, appreciate you having me on, brother.
Anytime.
Looking forward to talking.
Likewise. I'm really pumped. This is the first interview. We were talking before on the channel, so I'm excited, and I know you have a lot of exciting stuff coming with FCG, so I mean, a lot of people know who you are, and there's a lot of people who don't know yet. And part of this is we want to make sure that people know what you are and what you're about and what your company is about. So FCG, Forensic Card Grading, first of all, tell us about how did it start and what went into the name?
So as a collector, first and foremost, collector. I've been collecting since I've probably been 4 years old. Started with Garbage Pail Kids, went to baseball cards. Right around COVID, I found myself with tons of raw stuff, higher end stuff that needed to be graded, and just didn't really have an outlet for it. Some of the higher end stuff, sure, you could pay $250 or whatever it was at the time to get graded and get away with it. But, on the $500 cards, $1,000 cards and stuff under that, it just didn't make sense. So the thought was to come up with an affordable, accurate outlet for folks. Not an emphasis on the label, and there's nothing wrong with that. Cool labels are great. But at the end of the day, it's card grading. So forensic is actually a play on the word forensis, Latin word forensis, for out in the public, because everything that we do is transparent. When we launched, it's a little over a year ago now, we showed everything that we were going to be doing, the scale, the equipment, our methods of grading. So forensic, forensis, again, it's a play on the Latin term, but I wanted it to be different. I don't think that grading is something that should be done in a back room behind closed doors. We use the scopes, overhead magnifying lamps. We spend an average of about 5 minutes per card. We introduced the QR code that takes you to the grading note sheet, which shows you exactly how each subgrade was determined. So we just wanted to be very transparent with everything that we do. And that's basically what we're about.
I know my first experience with learning about FCG was I saw your videos, and not only was your video production pretty spot on, but what drew me in personally when I just discovered FCG was that you were actually doing what you said. You were showing everybody, you were pulling back the curtain and saying, here's how you grade. It's not a secret. It's not mail it to me. I'll give you a number back in a couple of months or a year, and that's it. So
right.
I know you said that was your real impetus, like the transparency behind it all. What was the first thing that you thought of as you formed this company and you said, I need to do this to be different? What was that one first thing that you thought was your main differentiator?
It was a combination of things. I honestly can't pin down one thing. Everything that we've done has been from a collector's point of view, right? Whether it be the transparency, the effort that we put in, and it's whether it's a $5 card or a $50,000 card, it gets treated the same way. But as a collector, the card and the accuracy of the grade is what matters to me personally. So from that aspect, I wanted to instill the confidence in our supporters, whether they're grading with us or buying FCG stuff on the secondary market. I wanted them to know and trust that when they buy a card or get a card back graded from us, that the grades on the flip are an accurate representation of their card. And it was like 6 months after we launched, we introduced the QR code. We took it a step further, showing exactly how the subgrades were determined. But, the transparency aspect of it, in my opinion, was a must, right? If you want people to believe in what you're doing, well, there's no better way than to show them.
Of course.
And then the other aspect of it is service, right? When somebody calls or emails or whatever to our office, it gets responded to most of the time, like right away, if not within 30 minutes or so. So again, everything was just reverse engineered from a collector standpoint, stuff that a lot of us would want to see if we had the reins at the wheel, you know what I mean?
That's awesome. And so you said like your background is obviously you're a collector. What's your professional background prior to starting FCG?
Prior to mortgage banking, I operate South Lake Mortgage. I've been doing mortgage banking, loan origination for the better part of about 12 years.
Wow. Okay. All right. I mean, there's definitely transferable skills in that. Definitely the client service that you were talking about too. That's huge.
From a service aspect, it's no different. Like, and there are a lot of parallels there. I mean, we compete against guys like Quicken. I mean, they're the multi-billion-dollar elephant in the room. And as a mortgage banker, I've got to find ways to compete and win against those guys. And service and other aspects of what we do on that side definitely translate well to what we're doing with FCG.
For sure. And so I know it's hard to pin down one thing. So when you talk about FCG and the many differentiators that it has, you mentioned a bunch: subgrading, transparency. If you had to pick one that you would say you want to become or is your distinct competitive advantage against the landscape of graders, what would that one be?
The accuracy of the grading. I mean, when push comes to shove, there's only one reason aside from encapsulation for protection, right? Grading exists so you know what you have, whether you have it or you're buying it or selling it, right? I mean, really, that's why grading exists. And over the last year and a half, the narrative has been turned and twisted so many times for it to be about plastic and labels. I mean, you can go into a group and a post will be about, which color label increases the value more of my card. Mm-hmm. And cool. I mean, but that's, grading is grading. And if we're known for one thing and one thing only, I want it to be for the accuracy of the grading. That's it.
And if anybody looks at your website, fcggrading.com, they'll see right on the front, it's consistent, accurate grading. And so that's exactly, right in line there. As a collector myself, and as a collector who connects with a lot of other collectors, that's the biggest gripe, other than turnaround times, of course. But it's, right. How could I send in this card and get a 6, crack it, and send it again, and suddenly it becomes a 9? You're kind of just figuring like what's going on there. So everything that FCG is really putting out there, I think turns that all on its head and says, you know what? If you send it in, and if you crack it and send it in again, you're going to get the same grade. Odds are.
Well, it boils down to accountability. The QR code on the back of the label takes you to the grading note sheet. Any subgrade of 9.5 or lower, the grader details exactly how the subgrade was determined. And again, that's not a special thing we do. It's something we do on every card, and it keeps us accountable on every card. There's no guessing. We try to limit the subjectivity as much as we can. The equipment allows us to do that, the training. For example, on the centering, we measure every card. We've got transparent rulers that we use in conjunction with the scopes. We've got the scale where you take the two sides or whatever you're measuring, top, bottom, left, right. You add them together, and then you take the difference. You take the difference divided by the total. And then on the scale, up to a 7% variance is 10 gem mint. Between 7.1 and 10% is mint plus 9.5. And then 10.1 to like 13 and a half, give or take, is mint, and then so forth. So we have a well-defined scale. We don't have any AI. That's never been our thing, never will be our thing. Human evaluation supported by, again, good equipment, great people, QC in the mix. And, in my opinion, we've done a pretty good job over the course of this year of, establishing the fact that we're very serious about the accuracy and the consistency of every card that leaves the office.
I know you said that, the slabs and the look of the slabs is important, but secondary to the consistency. Your slabs have a very unique and simple look, and there's a lot of companies that have come out with different looking slabs, custom slabs and whatnot, and there's companies that have not changed their slabs in years. What went into the design of your slab?
So the slab itself, we recently changed, I don't know, maybe about a month ago. We went to clear. Before we had the frosted look. Mm-hmm. I think the clear highlights the card a little bit better. That was the catalyst behind the change. As far as the flip or the label goes, I didn't want it to detract from the card itself. I mean, again, it should all, and I get it. Look, to each their own. Custom labels are a nice thing. But it doesn't fit everybody, and it is what it is. Our standpoint was we wanted to keep it all about the card. and we didn't want to detract attention or take attention away from the card itself. So went with a minimalist look, keep it simple. And again, the upgrade to the clear slab on the 35-point stuff, I think highlights the cards a little bit better as well.
That's awesome. And the minimalism is something that definitely attracted me. I mean, you could tell I'm a minimalist now. Only with the hobby am I not a minimalist. This is it. But in life, I prefer the minimalist look too. So I really like the look, and I think the fact that you do offer subgrades on every single, and it's not a service upgrade or anything, and you've worked that into the label, so it really stands out the way it needs to, but it's not overpowering. Right. I think the slab is really looking good. Would you ever consider going to custom slabs at some point? Custom labels? Sorry.
Never pull anything out. I would tell you no, at least as it stands. But you know, again, I never say never. But as it stands, no, it's not a thought.
Gotcha. Okay, let's talk about some of the big changes that you announced recently with FCG. So you came straight out with a lowered price point. You came straight out with a guaranteed turnaround time. So tell me a little bit about what made you decide that now was the right time to do that, and that the 10-day guarantee was the right time frame.
So again, we've been doing this for over a year. We've yet to have anybody's cards in office for more than 10 calendar days, let alone business days. So the 10-day business guarantee goes hand in hand with what we've already been doing. The price drop, again, the goal with FCG was to make affordable, accurate grading available to everybody. You know, and even at where we were, it was very reasonable, ranged between $20 and $29 a card. You know, I listen, you know, I talk with hundreds of people, you know, private messages, phone calls, whatever it may be, text. But, you know, I still had that feeling from the feedback I was getting that people were just holding on to cards and they're waiting on prices. You know, I thought $14, sure, we could have gone 19, we could have gone 17, we could have gone 18. At $14, I mean, it pretty much opens you up to basically any card that you want to get graded. You've got the ability to get it graded. And you know what the funny thing is, Jay? Since we made the price drop, and our average card, you know, value. And again, we don't charge based on the value, but we keep an eye on what's coming in and what's coming out. But you know, average card value went up after we price. So that was part of the launched where we did price wise. You know, some of the other companies, I won't name names, you know, led at very low prices, and they did so without any type of reputation in the hobby, right? So the problem is all you see is very low end cards in their slabs, no middle, no high, right? And they've become branded, you know, lower end companies, and some of these companies are huge companies. We didn't want to necessarily make that mistake. It was important for us to build a brand first. And then provide as much value as we can. And that was what was behind the price drop.
And that's really interesting that you validated exactly what you thought was happening, that people were holding on to cards, waiting for the right moment. And once you lowered that price, it wasn't just like the commons that were coming in. It was higher value cards that people were like, now it's time.
Yeah, exactly. And that was the fear in the back of my head, you know, but again, I feel like we've built enough of a reputation and enough of a brand that we could get away with the lower price point, and that people wouldn't brand us as a low end company. You know, more so appreciate the fact that we're offering more value, in my opinion, than anybody else at a lower price.
That's awesome. So you haven't been around too long. You've been around long enough to establish yourself and establish that your processes are working, though. The $1 million question is, at this point, and feel free to take this any direction you want, do you feel like FCG is a competitor? Do you feel like PSA, BGS are your direct competition, or do you feel like you're working your way up to that point?
No, from the beginning, BGS, PSA, more so BGS, because their style with the subgrades is more so similar to how we operate. Mm-hmm. Those two guys are the direct competition. We have no delusion in the short run. Who knows what it turns into, you know, 5-10 years from now. But in the short run, we have our goals. We'll hit those goals, and then we'll create new goals. The goal is not to do 1 million cards next month. I can tell you that much. The goal is to grow, not for the sake of growing, but growing because we we can. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Forced is never a good thing. We want to take the right steps to grow. We want to make sure that we're overstaffed in every department before we, go from X to Y to Z. So, just maintaining our core, of the consistency and the accuracy back with the service is more important than me than, growing 2, 3, 4X over the next 6 to 12 months. So if you hit those marks and you maintain your core and you do right by people, that's when it's organic growth. And I would take organic growth any day of the week over forced growth. I'm not going to do it.
That's refreshing to hear, because a lot of times I think maybe it's our country or how capitalism or entrepreneurship works. It's just shoot to the moon as quick as you can. And it's not always, get the process down, make it work, make sure it's repeatable, make sure that it's solid, and then grow organically, like you said, slowly. So it's really refreshing to hear that your company's moniker is that get it right, prove it, then grow naturally. And you'll get there. The growth will come if you're doing things right and you're doing things properly.
Right. We're in it for the long haul. And if it takes 3, 4, 5, however many years, that it's fine. We're not in it to, grab and go. I mean, we're in it for the long haul.
That's awesome. I saw on one of your videos that you produced on your YouTube channel that it takes approximately 5 minutes to grade a single card. Was that more or less the right timing? Is that something like compounding this with what you were just talking about slow growth and things like that? Is one of your goals to reduce that timing, or is that sort of an after effect that once you get the process down, naturally that timing will come down because you'll have perfected it so well?
Yeah, we do live grading occasionally in the group, right? And those videos can take up to 20 minutes because we're stopping, we're giving commentary and stuff like that. When you're properly evaluating the front and the back of a card, right? You're looking at the edges, you're measuring for the centering and not just eyeballing it. Mm-hmm. I mean, there can probably shave off 30 seconds to a minute, but I mean, you combine that with the grader filling out the note sheet and all that type of stuff. Yeah. I mean, could we get it down to 4 minutes? Probably. Am I out there telling the guys, you got to hurry up? And am I clocking them 4 versus 5? No. I mean, where somebody would do that, sure, you're measuring and, taking that into account, but it's not a concern of mine. My concern is that it's done right. And if it takes a little bit extra time, I'm perfectly fine with that.
A couple of the other changes that you announced recently, not only the pricing and whatnot, but you mentioned at the top of the discussion here was the new scale, the Gem-Mint scale. So can you break it down for somebody who doesn't really understand what that means, maybe with a practical example, if they don't know what the Gem-Mint scale means or what you started at versus what you are now turning it into? Like, what does that mean to somebody who doesn't understand it?
Sure. So in simplest terms, we were operating under the Beckett scale, for lack of a better term, where 10 is pristine, 9.5 is gem mint, 9 is mint, and so forth. That's the subgrade scale. Okay. PSA, for example, operates on the 10 gem mint scale, right? Where 10 is the top of the mark. There is no pristine. There's nothing above 10. 10 is gem mint, right? The reason we made the change was for the benefit of our customers and our supporters, right? This is not a knock on people by any means. Please don't take it that way. But the market as a whole does not understand that numbers are numbers. They are meaningless unless you understand what the actual definition of the number is. And over the last year and a half, you have seen a complete 180 in the market, right? Where before, people understood that a 9.5 gem mint was the same thing as a 10 gem mint, right? There was no difference in the market. People didn't pay a premium one way or the other. And what's happened is certain companies got a hold of the narrative, right? And they spun it so hard for their benefit that there's no changing that. And the issue we were having is being that 9.5 was gem mint, competing against, for example, a PSA with a 10 gem mint. Well, when your normal consumer or customer sees a 10 versus a 9.5, well, guess what? It's putting our customers with the 9.5 at a disadvantage, even though they may have the better quality card, And the problem is you can't explain that to everybody.
Yeah.
And instead of fighting the market, which we did for a year, I'm not saying we gave in, but again, we thought it was the best move for our customers to make the change. So from here forward, and we've been doing it now for about a week and a half. 10 is gem mint. 10 is top of the mark. There is no pristine. There's no what we called our pearl or anything above that. 10 is gem mint. Same like 9.5 was gem mint. We didn't change the way we evaluate cards. The only thing we did was change the scale. So with that change, 10 is gem mint. We added the 9.5, which is mint plus, and then 9 is mint. And then we agreed at no charge to upgrade slabs, reevaluate, do what we needed to do to make sure that it was a smooth transfer, for guys that had FCG slabs that were, 9.5 gem mint cards. And again, we thought it was the right thing to do those at no charge. So, and we're going to honor that for as long as need be.
And have you started getting in 9.5s since you made this change where people are sending them to you and you're reslabbing them?
Oh, literally within 2 days, we started getting tons and boxes of stuff. And not just that, it was new orders. And I mean, I think it's been about 7 days or so. Don't quote me on that, but it has been a busy, to say the least, week or week and a half.
You're seeing those come in already. You're seeing the 9.5s come in and reslabbing them. Have you seen any 9.5s that when you reevaluated, they didn't make the 10 scale?
Yeah, and here's why. What I did not want to do, and I'm not naming names, but you see 10s from other companies where you look at them or you see the picture and you're like, that's not a 10, right? And it usually revolves around centering, sometimes corners. So we always had an emphasis on centering in corners, but the new scale definitely has an emphasis on centering in corners. You cannot have a 9 center, you cannot have a 9 corner and be a 10 gem mint. So on the previous scale, right, if you had 3 9.5s and a 9 corner, it was a 9.5 gem mint, right? On the new scale, those 3 9.5s would be 3 10s, but that 9, if it was a 9, you'd have 3 10s and a 9. It's not a 10. It's a 9.5. So a min gem with us, for example, would be 3 10s, 3 10 gem mint subgrades, okay, with a surface or a 9 edge, because you can have a 9 surface or 9 edge and still have a gem mint card. So we actually tightened up the scale a little bit when we made the change. And again, the reason we did that is so you don't have a 9 center, right, or a 9 corner with a 10 on it. I can't stand when you see those pictures, and it's cockeyed to the left, with a 10 on it. I refuse to have that with our name on the slab. It's not going to happen.
I saw one of your videos with the, I think it was Prism Basketball, where you were going over the left to right centering and how it was like so obviously off side to side, but was somehow a 10. And then you regraded it and you gave it its actual legitimate grade, what it deserved.
Well, here's the thing, though. If you look at their scale, and I'm not naming their names, but their scale, right, they say that a 60-40 variance can be a 10. And you know what? If you think about what a 60-40 is, right, let's say one side is 60, the other side is 40, right? Add them together, it's 100, right? You have a 20% variance between the 40 and the 60. So based upon their stated guidelines, they're sticking within it. But again, from our perspective, I don't agree with that. 7% variance is gem mint with us. And I didn't want to have 10 gem mints out there that you could even question the centering or see a little bit of touch on the corners. That wasn't going to happen.
In the prior scale that you had, did you say it was pristine or pearl? What was your top?
Pearl was top of the top, all 410 subgrades, white label with gold. And, literally we were running 1 out of 10,000 cards. And it has nothing to do with we're evaluating too hard. Again, we use scopes, but we're using them at 4x. We don't have these things cranked up to 10 or 100x. We're at 4x on the scope. Right. I think it speaks more to the production of cards these days than it does anything else. A 10 is perfect, or was perfect. And just, again, the population of pearls was so small that the trade-off of giving our customers the competitive advantage that they needed to level the playing field and giving that up, we didn't like doing it. Some of our customers didn't like it, but in the long run, we think we made the right move for the benefit of our customers, and our customers come first.
And now you wonder if those pearls that you already graded that are out there, they're going to become even rarer now because you're not issuing any new ones anymore.
Right. Yeah, that may very well be the case. Same thing with the pristines. I've had guys ask me, hey, with this 10 pristine, can I send it in? for the 10 gem mint, and I encourage them not to.
We've got the National coming. And as of this recording, it is next week. It is a week away.
Right.
I know you and FCG have a booth there. Tell me, what's going on at the National for you guys?
So we're going to be doing what we always do at card shows. We're going to be doing live grading on site. Again, it fits with what we do. You know, we'll have the scopes, the overhead lamps, everything that we do. We don't have the capability of slabbing due to the fact that our labeling equipment, the slabbing equipment, and everything's here in Texas, of course. But raw card review on site, it'll be $14. The raw card review has subgrades, and it's your standard void sticker raw card review. Depending on what the flow is, you know, may take a couple minutes up to, you know, a couple hours, you know, depending on what the card flow looks like. But what we've been doing recently at shows is $14 for the RCR and then no charge. So if you decide you want the card slabbed, no problem. We'll take it back with us to the office and we'll slab it up and send it back to you. For those that are local, they'll pick them up. We do local pickup and drop off. But yeah, if guys are happy with the grades and they want the permanent encasement, no charge over and above the original $14 for the RCR.
How hard is it to actually do a full grading and slabbing on site? I mean, those machines must be huge and the material that you need must be a ton, right?
You have to have the cooperation of the whoever's putting on the event. We obviously sonic weld all of our stuff. Those welders, we run the Branson IW2000s. They're not huge machines, but they're a couple 100 pounds, so getting them and moving them is tricky. But they also run on 220 volt electricity. So you have to have the proper outlets. Then the labeling too. The type of foiling that we do with the labels is a unique type of print. So getting the printing equipment along with the slabbing out there is not an easy proposition. So at least for now, we're not doing that.
Yeah, I can imagine. There's a lot more. You know, you take your average hobbyist and guys like me, I would love it if a grading company could literally, I could walk in, get a card graded, get in the slab, and walk out. But what ordinary Joe doesn't realize is there's a lot that goes into that, and that's tough to do in person, right. Cost effectively.
For a lot of the guys here, we're in Dallas. It's South Lake, which is a little suburb of DFW. But for the guys that walk in, you know, they'll drop off a card on a Monday and have them sometimes on a Wednesday. You know, and we don't have like a premium service level or anything like that where we're charging them extra. You know, it's, as it stands now, $14 a card. But yeah, we're driving to that. I mean, the goal again is to have everything done inside of 10 calendar days. And, you know, most of the time when a guy, whether they mail it or drop it off on a Monday, it's usually shipping out or ready for pickup on Thursday or Friday.
Have you, and this might be a crazy thought because I've had this idea, and I'm sure millions of others had. Do you think it's possible to do like a grading truck? Like, could you be a mobile grading company and actually show up at certain spots?
Well, I'll tell you, we did it yesterday.
Really?
So, Don, with SMP in Grapevine, they've been around for like 30 years. One of the best shops around. He did his annual party yesterday, and we were grading on site. So, that's awesome. We travel pretty light as far as the scope, the lamp, and the rulers and the equipment that we need. Yeah, that's kind of what we're looking to do going forward. Hook up with card shops, you know, put on whether it's a trade night, party, something like that. RCR on site for them. And then, you know, hey, if you like it, we'll take it back to the office and we'll finish the job.
What about slabbing on site? Like, do you think that's feasible if you're able to fit stuff in a truck to actually bring the entire grading and slabbing to a certain place?
The labeling, yes. Again, our labeling is a little bit more intensive because of the type of foiling or printing that we're doing. Mm-hmm. But if we're just doing sticker labels or paper labels, like a lot of these places are doing, sure, that's easy. And then from there, you would just have to have the right voltage at your disposal to run the welders. So yeah, I don't think that's. I think it could be done for sure.
That would be interesting. I think the first person who can master that will probably make a killing. Because part of the challenge is, you know, you don't feel comfortable mailing stuff and trusting U.S. Postal Service or UPS, especially your expensive cards. Not everybody is within driving distance. And so if somebody were to get to the point where you can mobile grade or do pop-up grading, I think the hobby would go nuts with that.
Yeah. So we've got it with the RCR, but the permanent encasement, unfortunately, at least as it stands, takes an extra couple of days.
Yeah, grading and
I agree
encasement.
on that instant gratification thing. People want things right away, and you can't
That's
fault them for that.
That's it. That's exactly what it's all about. And I was trying to research this to find a name of a company, but I couldn't remember it. I know I saw a Facebook ad or two there's a lot of, startups that are trying to do the RCR portion without the humans. And it's like either an app or it's a kiosk. And they're trying to sell the fact like, listen, we're going to help you like pre-grade your cards so you know which ones to send in and you don't waste your time on the other ones. Have you heard of apps and startups like that?
Yeah, and I won't name them by name. They are what they are. Their peer grading is basically what it is. So you scan the picture of the card, and then you've got a group of 50 or 100 guys, that judge the card. And then in time, the way it's supposed to work is the AI learning starts to take over and it starts to tighten down the range based upon previous grades assigned by that grader. I don't want to go into too much detail about other companies' models, but
Mm-hmm.
just at face value, that's kind of, at least my understanding, how it works. The problem that I have with it is just at face value, grading from a scan to begin with. The way the light interacts with a lot of these modern cards determines what you see and what you don't see. And you've seen it. You can have a card and it's like this and it looks great. And then you go like that and you see the print line and the scratch, right? So that's this scanning or grading from a scan is flawed to begin with. So, you know, it's part of the reason we chose the scopes that we work with. We work with the Avon Cyclopses. They're a little bit more expensive, a lot more expensive,
Mm-hmm.
but you've got the adjustable lighting capabilities on them, and then they have a lot of room around the base, so you can really maneuver with the pad and do all kinds of stuff. But I don't think that grading from a scan is the right way to go.
And that right there is, a lot of folks realize that obviously you need light in order to grade properly, but just why lighting is so important. If let's say you're just buying a raw card on eBay and all you've got is a scan, like you said, you can't tell necessarily the scratch that's on the bottom left corner unless it's tilted to refract the light at a certain angle. And so the
Right.
lighting in and of itself is, would you say, the most important aspect of grading, if not one of the top most important aspects?
Well, I'll put it in perspective. We QC the cards in a different light setting for that reason. So you're getting a completely different perspective. On top of the grader being able to adjust and do with the light, pull in the overhead lamp, turn off the light, the scope. We QC in a completely different room for that reason. So lighting makes or breaks, especially on the ultra modern stuff, the chrome and things like that. Yeah, if you don't have the proper lighting or the ability to adjust the lighting, there's no way that you're catching everything.
Let's talk about FCG and some expansion recently. So I know that you launched recently the custom Chrome card, so a little bit different from grading. What made you decide to do that?
So large influx of personal cards. Hey Matt, hey guys, can you grade or slab my kid's card? Or hey, we did some family pictures and I turned them into a card. Can you slab them? And of course, sure. In most cases, in fact, all cases, we don't actually grade them. We encase them and then customize the label to their liking. But there's something to that. I mean, my kid plays travel ball. He's 11, and my daughter dances. My littlest one does gymnastics. And every year we spend God knows how much, whether it's on a video, pictures, cards, and it ends up in a drawer. And there's no way to display it. So we just kind of put two and two together. Um, we've got all the equipment here. That's easy. And then we've got a really good graphic designer on staff. He's the guy who does all of our video stuff. So I gave him a little bit of liberty to play with it and do, and then that's what he came up with. The likelihood is, though, just putting it out there, we'll end up rebranding the custom cards. I think separating the FCG from the custom cards is probably the wise thing to do. It is the wise thing to do. So we'll probably relaunch and rebrand the custom card side, and it'll be an entirely separate entity and run separate from FCG.
It makes sense. I know. I mean, I could think of 20 people off the top of my head who would love to do that for their kids' little league game and get a picture of them and just get a custom Chrome card. It's they have boots at the National for getting your own card, and grown men like us walk away like this is the coolest thing on earth. So,
right. Well, the problem is the displayability. I mean, custom cards have been around for forever, but the ability to actually show them off, that's an entirely different thing. So that's kind of where we're headed with that.
Totally. And the separate branding makes perfect sense because it's a foray into something that's kind of related to what you do, but also very different. And so I think that'll make more sense to a consumer seeing, grading and seeing customs. And then eventually I'm sure you'll expand into many other things because you're already innovating so early on. So
if it's there, we will. But again, we're not looking to grow for the sake of growing. If there's a spot where we can do good, we'll step in and do.
That's awesome. So this was a really awesomely long interview. I really appreciate your time. And so what I want to do is end with some parting words. Are there any closing thoughts that you would like to leave your viewers with about FCG, headed into the National, just in general? What do you want to leave your viewers with?
Yeah, keep in mind that it's a hobby, right? We do this because we enjoy it, right? Treat each other nice. Be good to people. When you're in these Facebook groups or on Instagram, it's just as easy to be nice to someone as it is not. Don't assume that people know as much as you do. I'm sure we all asked the same stupid questions 5, 10 years or however long ago, right? So just treat people nice. Don't lose sight of the fact that it's a hobby. Yes, there's lots of money in the hobby, and there are people that are there just for the money, and there's nothing wrong with that either. But just enjoy the hobby and do what you do, and just treat everybody with respect. I think that's pretty reasonable.
Just be kind. Simple.
Yeah, if you don't like something somebody's got up, it's real easy to just keep scrolling.
That's it. That's it. And I know you live it too, because I see a lot of times, especially being the owner of a new grading company, like you said at the top of this, you're going to immediately get hate. Because why are you even bothering? PSA and BGS has it all. Okay, everybody's entitled to their opinion. But I see when people throw that out at you, that you gracefully run into the comments and you always have a good reply. And I see that you're out there a lot replying directly, which is important.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't, no matter what I say or what somebody says, it can be spun and twisted and done. I try to keep it as simple as I can in the comments. We run a really tight group, right? And it's not because we're sitting there enforcing rules. I think I've had to pull down like one post in a year. You know what I mean? So we don't have a whole lot of the bashing, a lot of the hate. If somebody asks a question, guys are jumping in to help and do. It's just that, that's the way the hobby was up until like a year, maybe like 15 months ago. There was none of this price bashing. There was none of the smack talking, and unfortunately, it kind of seems like that's the norm these days. And the problem there is that it's turned off a lot of people, and a lot of people have left the groups. And, obviously the economy and with what's going on has a lot to do with it. But I think equal part has to do with the way a lot of these guys run these groups. It's turned off a lot of the guys that were in there before. And the problem is the guys that mouth off the most, they don't spend money. They don't buy. They don't sell. Who knows if they even have cards? But most of the time their contribution is mouthing off. And the problem, they make the hobby and what we're here to have fun doing unpleasant. And guys leave. So again, it's not just related to FCG, not even FCG, just in general. Remember, it's a hobby. Treat people nice and just mind your own business. Be cool and be good. So.
It's simple. We just end on that. Just be good to everybody. Just enjoy. It's a hobby. Have fun with it. And it's probably one of the only hobbies where you can spend money and at least break even if you really wanted to. There's not a lot of hobbies where you can do that. So enjoy it.
Right.
That's awesome. All right, Matt. So I really, really appreciate your time. This was a lot longer than I know you or I planned. I would love to just continue talking, but again, I want to respect your time and thank you again. Everybody, go and see Matt, FCG, at the National. a week from today as of this recording. Check out what they've got to offer. Check out their website, fcggrading.com. It's $14 per card, straight up. Turnaround time's legit. The slabs and the labels are beautiful. I would say at least give it a try before anybody bashes it. Give it a try. You heard from the owner, the head honcho himself, about what FCG stands for, which I think is really important in a grading company. So check him out. And Matt, thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it. And good luck with the national and with everything with FCG.
I appreciate that, man. Thanks for taking the time today. It's good talking with you, and thank you guys for tuning in. Appreciate it.
Of course. You can get the Cliffs Notes version on TikTok. Again, it's at ParlayJ right here. So thank you guys so much. I hope you enjoyed it. As always, I hope you find this helpful. Please like, subscribe, and comment below. I respond to every single comment that I see, and I am so thankful that you guys are watching and enjoying the content. So that'll do it, guys. And until next time, it's your boy ParlayJ saying take care, spike your hair. We will see you next time.